We're going to check out the power unit now. I just pulled the radiator cover off of the top and we're checking for dirt. We're just checking, was it maintained? Obviously if there was a leak, we'd want to see that too. And you know what, that pin's too hard to get at. I'm not going to do it right now. It does look pretty clean. Another way to check the cooling system is just watch the temperature gauge, stall the hydraulics for a couple minutes and run it around in circles, push on something real hard, make sure you got it at operating temperature, and then try to overheat it by stalling the hydraulics. And if the temperature doesn't start to climb in a couple minutes, it's not real bad. It might not be real good, but at least you know if you got a problem that has to be addressed right away. This looks good. Air filter is something I often check. These mufflers tend to break, and when they do, a muffler I think is a couple $100 last time I checked. When the mufflers crack, you tend to suck exhaust into the air filter, which makes it's a really fine particle, and it doesn't shake out like dust. A lot of people think the air filter is just discolored, and they don't realize it's actually plugged. And what happens when you get exhaust like that in an air filter and it's not looking plugged, you have too much intake restriction. So the turbocharger has to suck air too hard and it'll damage your turbocharger. I suspect that's happened on here already, because when you start this thing first thing in the morning, it smokes white. We're going to check blow-by in a minute here. Right here's the tube coming out the top of the valve cover, and it exits down here. And if it were an internal engine problem on the cylinder walls, we would see a lot of blow-by under load. That would say, okay, you got a serious engine problem, which could also make it burn oil and smoke white when it starts up cold. But what I'm seeing here, I suspect the turbocharger might be damaged. So that's kind of normal, you know, somebody's had it out and run it. But you do see it's a black discoloration. It's not just dust colored. You do see some black on there, which could very well be the exhaust soot I was worried about. So we'll check the muffler and the exhaust plumbing more carefully. Another thing to check easily is the fan belt. This one appears worn. The belt sits into the groove very deep. I call it a fan belt. Technically it's an alternator belt, but it's too thin. It's worn. The sides are curled up a little bit. Other clues would be missing cogs or cracks. Water pumps, when they're going out, they start to wiggle a little bit. This one does wiggle a little bit, which indicates loose bearings in a water pump, so that's an approaching failure. Pete, go start it up. We'll check that blow-by. So that gives me a lot of confidence that the engine's still pretty solid. If the cylinders were worn in the engine, I would have seen escaping air, exhaust gases that bypass the cylinders, went into the crankcase, and vents out the blow-by tube. That's an indication of you need an overhaul. You got a serious engine problem, and we're not seeing that, so I'm happy about that. What else can we see back here? I don't see any leaks. Engine mounts sometimes come loose. Drain hoses can get wore through. That's all looking good back here. The drive belt is really hard to get off on this machine, but that's something you want to check. And from this viewpoint, I can't tell you if it's good or bad, so we're going to drop that. But it's kind of the same criteria we used on the alternator belt. You're looking for cracks, you're looking for missing cogs, you're looking for how deep it sits into the groove, because it's a V shape, so when the sides of it wear, it sits down deeper. Another excellent clue on what type of maintenance the machine has received is a lot of mechanics will write the hours on the oil filter. If it's not been serviced for 300 hours, that's a pretty good clue. Nobody cared about it. It's probably been beat up.